Dear friends, it is the 8th of December, and what we're now witnessing in Syria is the murder of a nation and the expansion of two Nazi regimes. A regime in Turkey and a regime in Israel. Two allies, Erdogan and Netanyahu. For all of Erdogan's blah blah about Palestinians, Erdogan is the closest ally after Americans that Israel has. And it's done everything to make sure that Netanyahu's dream of greater Israel comes true. And if for those, by the way, of you who don't believe in greater Israel, you better go back and re-listen. Of course, it's to its translation, unless you speak Hebrew. Bezalel Smotrich, who's, by the way, finance minister of Israel, gave a very good interview on that theme. He described how and where Israel's borders are going to be. The two blue stripes, Euphrates and Nile, from the river to the river. So, southern all of Lebanon, southern southern Syria, western Iraq to the Euphrates, western Saudi Arabia down to Mecca and Medina, Jordan, and the Sinai. That's what they considered their land. Well, the Arabs in Jordan and in Egypt had best wake up, because with Syria gone, and the bloodbath that's going to be in Syria is going to be monumental. I was in RT today, and I was listening to a woman that was ahead of me from some Arabic center on politics and study of politics, and she says, well, now, there's going to be an orderly transfer of power to these different opposition groups, and they'll have elections. Are you friggin' serious? Name for me, please, one revolution brought an improved life to the people. One revolution. We could start it in 1917, 1918. With the Tsarist, with the liberal revolution in Russia. That was then followed by the Bolshevik Revolution. February and October, 1917. By all means, find it for me. Find one revolution that worked. It works to bring certain people to power. And it works to help the Americans so they can rape and pillage the resources once they've pushed in their puppets. But please, by all means, show me where the people are better off. What we've seen is a collapse in Syria that's monumental. Partially because the generals decided not to fight. We saw this in Iraq. When the U.S. invaded Iraq, half the Iraqi army didn't come out of their barracks. The generals have been bribed. Quite literally, CIA agents running around with bags full of cash. Quite literally. So these bribed generals were all promised a bright and happy future, and we saw what Iraq turned into. Syria is going to be a much worse situation. You've got HTS, which is reformed al-Nusra, which is reformed al-Qaeda, the latest American-Turkish project that came down there, and these are Salafists that believe that absolutely everybody else needs to be exterminated. So any other form of Sunni Islam, the Shiites, the Alawites, the Christians. And by the way, while we're at it, especially for you Americans who consider yourself a Christian nation. Really? Christian nation? America has done more to murder, genocide, and massacre Christians in the Middle East than any other nation in the history of the world. 20% of the population of Iraq was Christian. It's about 0 right now. Thank you, America. Libyan Christians have been murdered. Thank you, America. Obama sponsored the Muslim Brotherhood's grab for power in Egypt, where Christians were being murdered after that. Thank God that the military had enough gumption to kick these bastards out and take power. Thank you, America. Syria had a population of Christians that was 12% Christian. It's down to about 2.5%, 3%. All your moderate Islamics, all your moderate rebels, for some reason, first and foremost, were murdering Christians. Thank you, America. So now what do we have? What do we have? Oh, by the way, and don't have to look even further, Ukraine, which has outlawed the main Orthodox Church, where priests are murdered, people are beaten. Thank you, America, one more friggin' time. The country that destroys more Christianity, the U.S. government, is the Antichrist, if anybody hasn't figured that one out yet. By the way, the Satanic Church of America is a legal entity and has after-school programs. Don't believe me? Look it up. State House in Iowa had a satanic altar put up. You can't do a Christian cross, but you can do a satanic altar. One of the senators there knocked it down. He got charged with hate crimes. Christians, oh yeah. How many of you Christians have said a word about the mass murder of Christians all over the place? By the way, Palestinians are about 15-20% Christians. Any of you say a single word about that? Give a damn. And you beat yourself in the chest, you're Christian, especially the evangelicals. Oh, we're going to rapture up. We're going to teleport up to God because we're so holy. Really? You're so holy. And you support the murder of your brothers and sisters in Christ. You actively support their murder. I think God's going to have a little surprise for you. I mean, I can't speak for Christ myself. I am in no position. But I have this feeling that you're going to have a little surprise when that time comes. So maybe it's time to do some soul searching of exactly what you support. And while we're at it, the Israelis have crossed the border in southern southern Syria. They're out to annex territory, just like Turkey's annexing territory in northern Syria. You got the Greater Israel Project growing and the Neo-Ottoman Empire growing. They're going to carve up Syria. Lebanon is going to explode within the next week. The Israelis have already had 130 violations in 1 week of the so-called truce. And violations by hitting civilian targets. And when they're not hitting civilian targets in Lebanon, they're murdering, massacring, and genociding Palestinians. Meanwhile, Palestinian protesting for Palestinian rights to be alive are now being blocked by various companies and by various universities and by various governments in the West. The Ukrainization of the West continues apace. Ukraine, which is the hotbed experiment for how to make a mass of people that are basically sheep, brainless, and can be used any which way you want, is a success. And now it's coming on to the rest of the West. Look in a mirror and think what is being done with you, or to you. It's a lot of times by you. And there you go, folks. That's how the world is spinning. So Syria is going to be a bloodbath. Because you got to solve, and the Kurds, got to be the most unwise people in existence. So the Kurds became a maxi pad for the Americans. But here's the problem, dear Kurds of Syria. You were only needed as long as Assad was in power. As just another force to be used against Assad. Now you're no longer needed. There's the little hint. But you know who doesn't, who wants you? Well, wants you dead. That would be Mr. Erdogan. And what do you think is your value to the United States government now? Assad's gone. Bloody civil war is erupting. American corporations are going to continue stealing oil. And then there's this pesky group called the Kurds that have been already guarantee you sold out to Turkey. Sooner or later, you're going to have the Turkish army and the Salafists that are mostly Turks coming for you and your women and children. Welcome to extermination. You laid with the devil, you got screwed by the devil. Should have allied yourself with Assad, gotten autonomy and lived peacefully ever after. But no. Well, now you're going to get peacefully ever after, the peace of the dead. The Turks are coming for you. The rest of Syria is going to be a bloodbath. The Sufis are already attacking one of the Shiite holy sites. There are Iranian soldiers there and Shia. There's about 100-something of the Shia, local Shia and Iranian Shia, fighting off 300 plus Salafists in Damascus. They're not going to go down without they're going to go down, but they're going to go down taking as many of these American bastards as you can, American Turkish bastards as they can. And this war is going to spill over to Iraq. The Iraqi army is already on the border, but it is going to spill over to Iraq. because the US and Israel need everything to burn, and so do the Turks. And the Turks, while we're at it, already got their eyes set on western Georgia. A little over a year ago, Erdogan was in Raza, which is west of Georgia, on the Black Sea coast, and he gave a little speech where I'm here, and I'm in Raza, and I'm looking over at Batumi, which is the capital of the province of Ajaria, and I don't see any difference. It's all ours. And Ajaria is southwestern Georgia. So while the Georgians are divorcing the West, that is beating off the forced Maidan, forced color revolution that the West is so apt to give as a form of democracy, the Turks are already have been eyeing gripping another piece of land from another country. But since the Turks are the second biggest army in that abomination called NATO, absolutely nobody will have a problem with that, except maybe the Greeks. If I was the Greeks and the Bulgars, I'd really be thinking about that right now. Because guess what, boys? You're next. Sooner or later, the Neo-Ottoman Empire is going to start looking west. And America's going to be more than happy to have you murdered off. You Christian bastards, you. You don't think so? Really? Keep dreaming. Keep smoking the copium pipes. Right up to a point where a Turk cuts your head off. Or you wake up. Because the reality is, Turkey is back on a rampage. And the only way Erdogan stays in power is the only way Netanyahu stays in power. This is like Germany and Italy back, 80 years ago. Same here. Except this time it's Turkey and Israel and the Middle East. But with Turkey, it's going to spill into the Balkans. It always spills into the Balkans. And then you got Romania, the last mask of democracy, of hypocrisy, has finally come off. Grigescu wins. They make him out to be some nobody, know-nothing that suddenly showed up, and that's how he won. Actually, the guy's got 30 years in Romanian politics. Also, as a diplomat, the man is very experienced. He's very well known. They claim he's a Russian stooge. You know why he's a Russian stooge? Because he wants what's best for Romania, not what's best for Brussels, and damn well not what's best for Washington. And anybody who wants what's best for his own people is a Russian stooge, a Russian troll, and God forbid, a Nazi. Because that's what anybody that wants the best for his country has to be. He has to be a Nazi. That's what they all get called. That Nazis were socialist globalists building a new European order, which, by the way, is the EU in a new reincarnation. That's, of course, ignored. That's called manipulating information and reality. So think about it, boys and girls, where this is rolling. And if you think Trump's going to change anything, I mean, I've got my army there because we're stealing oil. Well, the only thing difference between him, Biden, and Obama has been that he was at least honest enough. And when you're talking about how Trump didn't start any wars, he wasn't ready to start any wars. He did throw about 70-something tomahawks at Syria. He did have Soleimani assassinated, murdered is more like it. The man was on a mission of peace to conduct a negotiation between Iran and Saudi Arabia. And thankfully those negotiations were still carried out thanks to China. You get rid of America out of any country's problems and you suddenly have peace break out. There isn't a single conflict in this world that the U.S. doesn't have its grubby little paws in and isn't working to make money off of. They'll find any problem anywhere. You know, there's a Russian saying, if you suddenly have quarrels in your family, you probably had an English guest. Well, that works thrice as much for Americans. There's absolutely no conflict in the world that America will not get its grubby paws in. As long as it can stir the pot up even worse, kill off a lot more people, and steal a lot more valuable items or property, or get rights for resources, and so on and so on. That's what it's all about. Kill, 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 rob, rob, rob. And the insatiable appetite of the Washington Satanists. So there you go, boys and girls. That's where our world is right now. We'll see how it goes. I'll keep you in touch, in tune. Fight the fight. Don't sit on your arse and let it go by and then wonder why everything's burning, including your house. God bless.